Today on the Coach What podcast, we have a very special guest. This coach is an ex-teammate of mine. He spent time playing football in Seattle, Washington in high school, where he then took his talents to the next level at Pima Community College. To finish up his career, he went to Adams State University, where he had a very, very good showing there, where he was All-RMAC honorable mention, as well as preseason All-American for the Grizzlies. He played defensive line. He's now coaching at Kentwood High School back at his alma mater, back in Seattle, Washington area. Today we welcome Coach Quincey Davison to the Coach of Why podcast. With the world of coaching evolving and the carousel always changing, we're going to sit down with some coaches and we're going to figure out what they coach, how they coach, and most importantly, why they got into this profession. My name is Casey Wilkinson, and I am your host of the Coach's Why podcast.
That's a great question.
That was my Coach's Why.
Welcome back to another Coach What podcast. We have a very special guest in the building today, Coach Quincey Davison from Kentwood High School up in Washington. Ex-teammate of mine, played at Adams State together, so I'm very thankful that he jumped on today and took the time to speak on some gems, hopefully, and just talk football, talk shop a little bit. So, Coach, I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks again.
I appreciate you having me. It's good to see you, by the way, brother. How you been?
Hey, I'm good, man. It's been a hot minute. Yeah, it's been about 9 years probably since I see you in person. Yeah, I've been good, bro. Just got some kids now, and just back doing the same thing as you, giving back. Coaching, enjoying that. So just out here grinding, man. How about you? How you been? I see you on social media getting your progression and growing up the ladder, bro. So it's cool. But outside of that, how you been?
Man, I'm glad that you're doing well. And man, I've been well, man. Just really building myself since moving back from Colorado. It's been a journey, to say the least, and we'll jump into that and what that looks like here in a few. But man, it's been good, man. It's been good. God is good, and I give Him all the glory. And I'm just thankful that He puts me in the places to have this opportunity.
Absolutely, bro. That's awesome, man. Yeah, God is great. Absolutely. I 100% agree there, man. Yeah, and you grew up in Washington, which we'll definitely get into a little bit, because I do remember you telling me, I could have sworn it was Seattle is what you told me back in the day, but it might not have been actually Seattle, but I know you were in that little, maybe suburb or that little area, so we'll definitely get into that. So, yeah, I guess right into it. Where did you grow up? Was it Seattle, or where was it in Washington you grew up?
Well, I grew up from the Renton to the Kent area, moved around a little bit, and I attended Kent Ridge High School my freshman year, which is in Kent, Washington, and then I did my rest of my high school career at Kentwood High School, where I currently coach and teach as of right now.
Good. Sorry, guys. We had a little bit of technical difficulty there. So, Coach, I was asking you if you had if teaching was kind of something you always wanted to do, or if that was something that kind of just, and I think you were mentioning to me prior to that you, maybe not necessarily teacher, but you're involved in the school. So, I guess was kind of being involved in the schools in some way or fashion always your plan A, or was that just something kind of that fell into your lap?
Honestly, it was always plan A. After playing ball, I've always wanted to work with kids. I always felt like, give back, because I had a coach when I was young, when I was cutting up and doing things I shouldn't have been doing. I had a coach really pour into me, and I didn't have a father growing up. My father died before I was born. So, I didn't have a male figure in my life until I met Coach Rex Norris at Kentwood High School. And he really poured into me and gave me everything that I needed to feel supported, to be able to move to Arizona to play junior college football, to then go to Colorado where we meet and build from there. So I always felt like, I have to pay that forward. But being where I'm at and being at Kentwood was never the plan. But it's just a full circle moment, just a showcase of what God can really do.
Absolutely. That's cool. So when you got involved, or actually I should say this too. So I know, so I've mentioned this in multiple episodes before, but yeah, I'm the same way. I grew up without a pops too. So having a coach, it is a lot of time for young athletes, male and or female, right? They have their mom figure possibly, or maybe a dad figure, but regardless, having a coach is so important, because I feel like, right, like same thing in you, that influential factor, they can kind of keep your head on straight, or at least hopefully guide you in the right direction and teach you things that, whether we wanted to listen to or not at 14, 15, 16, whatever age it was, now that we're 20, 29, 30, 35, however old you are, you can still take some of those disciplines that, we were taught and instill them either in your own kids or as a coach, right, to the kids you're teaching. So I just had to speak on that. I do believe that's a huge piece of, for me personally, but just in the world of sports and in today's world, I think that coaches are so important to be there. So I just had to speak on that for sure. So I know you mentioned that you grew up in that area of Kentwood, and then what was the other area? It was
From Renton to Kentwood, so it's about I'm renting from Kent. It's like 20 miles, 25 miles apart from each other.
Absolutely. Okay. So when did you get involved in sports in particular, but maybe to the sport of football? So like kind of, when did you start playing sports? And then, when did you start playing football?
Well, I started playing football at the age of 6. I played for Renton Rangers down in Renton, as we spoke about. Played for Renton Rangers up to my middle school seasons, and then I played at a middle school called Cedar Heights. Did my 2 years, 7th and 8th grade at Cedar Heights, because 6th grade is still elementary here in Washington. Some districts changed, but back then that's what it was like. And then after that, I went to Kent Ridge High School, and that's when my life ran a full circle of just trials and tribulations and learning more about myself. But then I ended up going to Kentwood and finishing at Kentwood, and I also played rugby outside of playing football. And in my middle school days, I actually did wrestling. And in high school, I tried to try out for the basketball team, but I guess coach didn't like my jumper. I didn't have it, I guess.
Hey, I didn't have it, coach. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I tried though. I feel you. Yeah, I got you. Okay. So football and rugby were kind of football has been kind of the mainstay from a young age, and that's something that you stayed consistent doing. So as you developed in football, when did you realize that you could compete at the next level? As you've already mentioned, you played at JUCO. And I've already mentioned, we've already talked about playing at Adams. So when did you realize that, maybe I can go play at the next level? Was it experience, maybe going to a combine or a event that you went in one-on-ones, right? Being D-line, O-line type of thing. Was it coaches coming to see you? Was it phone calls? I mean, when did you realize, I can go play?
That's a very good question. When I realized that I could really play was my sophomore year. And, I didn't get to play varsity my sophomore year because of what I did as a freshman. So when I attended Kent Ridge High School, I was a swing player. So I played JV and I played freshman ball, suited up for a couple varsity games, but nothing major. And I ended up getting into a situation because at this time I battled with my anger and my choice making. And I made a bad decision, and I put an assault on a staff member on campus. If I could always take that back, I would, but it was part of my journey. And after that, I had to go through all the hoops to try to get back into school. And it took me about 6 months to get back into school. And that was very tough and definitely a journey. And then my sophomore year, so why I speak about that, because my sophomore year, because I went to Kentwood and I lived in Fairwood, which is Renton, I had to be specially placed at Kentwood with an IEP. And I had a behavioral IEP. And so with that, I could only go to school part-time because I got mercy expulsion out of the school I was in at Kent Ridge. And then I what was it? I could only go to school from 4th, 5th, and 6th period when I first went to Kentwood. And then I had to earn my way through and playing ball during that time. There was guys in front of me that ended up going to go play D3 and D2 ball. And, coach would always tell me if I was eligible that I could be taking those snaps. And, I really believed in that. And then after that, I had Coach Gene Roche, who had taken me to a few camps. And I met some big names like Uso Olave and stuff like that, who also played D-line, O-line. And I was being compared with them. And then that's when I really knew that, like, hey, man, you gotta buckle down. It's time. If this is what you want, when you drive past University of Washington and stuff like that, is that what you want? Is that where you want to be? And so that's when I knew I could play when all those things had happened. And I just wanted to try to put myself in a situation to grow from my mistakes and be where I wanted to be.
Absolutely, yeah. And so kind of going back to what you mentioned about like the anger part of it, right? I feel like that's something that you'll find I mean, there's kids, and I think maybe every kid has some sort of emotional thing, right? Some kids can show it, some kids don't, and some people just have, and everybody shows it differently as a kid, right? Like, it might be internally, it might be externally, whatever, but they all face that. But as a coach, right? You obviously are dealing with, I don't know how many kids you have on your roster each year, right? From varsity down, I don't know if you're talking to all of them or whatever, but let's just say you might have, 60, 70, 80 kids, maybe more a year. So how do you deal with one or more? Yeah, let's just say you have one or multiple, I should say. Maybe kids who maybe face that same type of thing, right? That maybe have that anger, that kind of have some struggles at home or in the classroom, or with each other, whatever the case is. And how do you kind of coach that, those kids individually or maybe as a group to hopefully guide them in the direction that because you've experienced it, right, you can kind of maybe say something or maybe guide them in the directions. How do you do that as a coach?
I mean, the first thing I do is I want to get to know my kids. And
Mm-hmm.
so, especially with those kids that struggle with that skill set at this point in time in their life, I want to get to know them. And so, I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know what it looks like when they tick, and I want them to be able to know that we have a relationship outside of what we're doing out here. I always tell guys, football is the meetup point. It's the hangout. We love that. That's where we want to be. So, getting them there that's the easy part. That's the product. It's gonna sell itself. When they
Yeah.
step into my room and our room as coaches here at Kenwood High School, we want to get to know them. We love them. And so when that kid has that blow up, we first know how to approach that kid. Because let's say, Jimmy and Marvin, they're two different kids. And Jimmy, when he blows up, you can still talk to him and get him out of it aggressively. While he's being aggressive, you can still get it out of him and get him to chill
Yeah.
down and relax. And then Marvin might just be, he needs some time. And so because I know that about him, I'm gonna let him walk. And so when I get guys like that, let him walk. Hey, just take a little
Yeah.
walk. You ain't gotta run. You're not in trouble. Just get your thoughts together and then come back and let's talk. And just so really just get to know them and walking down the hill, as the analogy states, like just walk down the hill with them. Each step, and it's not, we don't never go backwards, but we might take a stop. We might rest.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like with building with those kids is something that we do. And I just highly believe in it because that's what my coach kind of showed me. And I expanded on that a little bit more. But just, sometimes I don't even talk to a kid about football when I talk about getting to know them. I mean, we might talk about, if he ever had a date. And what was the man of
Yeah.
character traits that he had when he went on a date? Like, hey, did you open the door for the young lady? When you met her parents, did you shake their hand and say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am? And try to just kind of see where they're at with their mentals, because then it allows me to be able to stage the conversations that move forward. Because at the end of the day, my goal is to make sure that I'm building young men of character who can go out and contribute to the community. And even if it's not our community, maybe it could be an Alamosa at Adams State that can
Yeah.
contribute and leave it
Yeah.
better than they found it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your goal as a coach, and I don't care what level you are, right? That's the ultimate goal is to help build good human beings, right? Good humans that are going to be successful in life. So yeah, I agree with that. I like that's something that you do and that you've taken the time as not only yourself, but it sounds like as a coaching staff to do. And I think that's important for sure. I think we have to know our audience, right? And that's what they say everywhere, but we have to know who we're dealing with in order for us to overcome any situation, but also so we figure out how to build something successful here, right? So I love that for sure. So as you mentioned earlier, I know you said Coach Ross, I think, but you had a few other coaches that you said, in your explanation of your time frames. Was there ever a coach who made an impact on your life? And who were they and why? It could be more than one, but who were these coaches and why were they so important to you?
Absolutely. That coach name was Rex Norris.
Oh, Rex
Uh,
Norris. Okay, I got
yes,
you.
sir.
I got you.
Rex Norris from Stillwater, Texas, I believe he's from. His dad actually coached in the NFL for many years. So actually, my coach is Rex Norris Jr.
Gotcha.
And he just played a huge role in my life. He was the one that wasn't afraid to have the difficult conversations with me. He wasn't afraid to be himself as a teacher. Because a lot of teachers get in and they become they become robotic. And he was very personal with me every day, from my good to my bad to my middle. He was just always there. And he pushed me in times that I couldn't push myself. Well, I didn't think I could push myself because, like he always says, he just had the best seat in the house, and all he did was hold a mirror up to me and let me see what I saw, and then maybe one day I can see what he sees when I look into that mirror. And so, just he walked me through that process, and so that's definitely one coach for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Damn, I
Absolutely.
like that. That's a tough one. I like that. He had the best seat in the house, and he just was holding the mirror. Yeah, bars right there for sure. Yeah, I like that though, right? Like a lot of times coaches are just trying to get you to see your own potential, right? And that's obviously uh, for whether it's to go be something at the next level or just to get your head on straight to not be, we want you here next year because you're not going to be here if you don't get your head on right. So yeah, absolutely, I love that. Yeah. So shout out to Coach Norris. He sounds like he was, or Junior, Coach Norris Junior. Sorry, technically, right? It sounds like he made a big factor on you. So hell yeah, I like that. So let's talk a little bit about, and by the way, too, we're gonna talk a little bit about your time frame from JUCO to D2 and like your GPA. I know you mentioned earlier, like, or I should say, like the schooling you're trying to get into at Adams and some of those things too, kind of to help you get to your journey, as well as like maybe some schematics of football. But before we get to all that, I want to talk to you a little bit about when you decided to coach. So like when was it, like when did you decide like, all right, I want to coach and I want to do this for real, and this is just kind of overall what I want to do. And then kind of the second part to that is how long have you been coaching, and kind of when and what was your timeline like? So like where did you start at, like what school, and then how did you get to be the head coach at Kentwood?
Okay, so I actually started coaching. You remember Coach T at Adams State?
I do, yeah, yeah. 2OD,
Yeah,
yeah,
Coach T
yeah.
had actually got the head coaching job the season following my last season at Adams State University.
Okay.
And I didn't want to try to pursue anything after college. I would kind of felt football had ran its course for me, and I had always promised my mom I would get a degree from college, and so I just stayed at Adams State. And Coach T presented an opportunity for me, said I'd be great at it. And I just took it and ran with it. So that's kind of how coaching became. You know, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Coach T
So
inspired that.
yeah, he kind of let it fall in your lap, and you just happen to be at the right place at the right time to take that. So I like that. Yeah, Coach T's cool, man. I see him. I haven't seen him in a long time. Same thing with you. I haven't seen him in person, I should say, in a long time. But social media wise, I see him all the time. I know he's got. I don't know which part of the family member he is, whether it's a son or nephew or cousin or whatever. He was playing at Air Force. He was a safety, I believe. But I see him posting all about his family, and I know he's been in that valley for a long time, right? He just like Doc, Coach Crowther was a big piece of that valley for a long time. So yeah, Coach T was always great. So I'm glad that he was that factor for you. So when you went from being at Adams and coaching or helping with Coach T, what brought you back to Washington to coach? I mean, like, where did you go after Adams as a coach, and then how did you get back to Kentwood? Did you go there right away, or was there other stops before this?
So after spending 4 years at Alamosa High School, just as a D-line coach and running data on Huddle, um, my best friend, my brother Keyshawn Lawson, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
hit me up and was like, "Hey man, I'm at Kent Lake High School, and I know you're coaching out there and doing some good things. If you're interested, you can run our huddle for us and kind of just break down our games." And so, I said, okay, sure, let's do it. So my last year in Colorado, that's what I was doing while I was working on finishing up with school. And then I moved down, and we started Kent Lake High School, and this is when my coaching journey really changed. That's when I coached D line. Then from D-line, I went to special teams coordinator. From special teams coordinator, I went to defensive coordinator. And then after that, I became the interim head coach for the rest of one of the seasons that I was over there. And then the last 2 years I've spent at Kentwood High School as a defensive coordinator, and I've just been named the head football coach as of current.
This year, yeah, no, it's cool, man. I like that. When I saw you when I saw that quote unquote promotion, I was like, bro, hell yeah, that's cool. I was super stoked for you, man. That's always a big step, especially, you've been doing coaching for at least 6, 7, 8, probably years now, roughly, maybe 9, 10 years. Yeah, 2014. Yeah, it's been a hot minute. Damn. Hey, don't keep saying those years, bro. You're reminding me that we're getting old, bro. You're right. Yeah. So you're right. Okay, so we've been doing it for a hot minute. So it's cool that you got that. Just continue to grind and continue to grow when it comes to the coaching side of things. And earlier, I think I might have said you spent time at Adams under Coach T. I realized that it wasn't Coach T at that time. So yeah, I actually skipped over a part about, at least that I like to ask you, because I mentioned I was going to talk to you about like your recruiting process, because you mentioned that you went to JUCO, right, and then you went to Adams. It's kind of like that. That's next step to the 4-year. So what was your recruiting process like? I mean, who were you talking to in high school? And then, who did you decide to go to out of high school? And then how did you get to Adams as obviously your final stop?
When I was in high school, the first school to really look at me was Eastern. And that was Eastern. And then there was a school called New Mexico Highlands.
Yep.
And so they came looking at me and came and saw my transcript and saw that it was a no-go. And coach looked at me and said, it was like, actually his name was Sheldon Cross from New Mexico Highlands. I believe that was his name. And he tells me, you're gonna have to go play junior college football. You're not academically at the standard. And so that's kind of how junior college came apart. Got a call late in my high school career. I want to say it was like May, honestly, that I got a call from Pima Community College, and went to Pima. But the reason why I laugh about that, because just to kind of tell you, how important it is to be a coach. When I signed and was going to junior college, I was actually ashamed that I was going to junior college. And I didn't really know my blessing at the time because, you're 17 years old. You're thinking, if it's not the bigger schools that you see on TV or you see people with the stamps on the cars, then you're not doing it, right? And as a kid, I lied. And I told people that I was going to go to University of Arizona.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Real. That's crazy.
I just kind of chuckle at that conversation, at that question, because I finally get to come true with a lie that I did while I was in high school, because I was so ashamed because I didn't know what I know now, and I didn't know that all you needed was an opportunity. And I think it's very important that the coaches and the kids understand that at this point, especially with the transfer portal, you just gotta get there. Just get there. And so, I would highlight myself as a bonehead moment when I, wasn't proud of what God put in front of me, and I didn't look at it as an opportunity to go get it. I looked at it more of an opportunity of shame. And so I chuckled at that question. That's a good question. Question.
Yeah. I think that's, for one, that, like I said, that's crazy. But number two is, like, as you said, bro, a lot of times it's just education, right? Like, and I've talked to multiple college coaches about, like, the obstacles they've had to overcome. And a lot of time, even still to this day, is like, oh, well, these kids think D1 or bust, or some only want to go to high-level D2s that they hear about or whatever. But they don't know, or even, like, high-level JUCOs, right? Like, Last Chance U, right? Everybody wanted to go to East Mississippi, or they wanted to go to certain JUCOs because of the name. Or whatever, but ideally, and maybe even not wanting to go to JUCO, it's just the idea that they weren't educated to know, like, this is still an opportunity to get where you want to go. Go ball out there, and you might have a better opportunity. Like right now in high school, you might be getting recruited to go to a low-level D2. You go ball out at JUCO, now you're going mid-major, or now you're actually going D2, or whatever the case is, right? So you might be putting yourself in a better opportunity going to that 2-year school than you would be if you just try to go somewhere right out of high school. And it's just education. And so, like, when you said it, as a coach, right? And I'm sure you, which we'll get into a little bit here in a minute, I'm sure you do a pretty good job, and I'm assuming it's part of the conversation you have when kids say, I want to go play, I'm sure you educate them, at least as best of your knowledge, maybe in layman's terms, for like kind of being talking to a 16, 17-year-old of like what they're going to get at each place. But, just educating these kids is so important, right, as a coach now. And so I think it's funny that you you did that. But, I mean, hey, you look back at it and it's funny. But, obviously, I'm sure you're super thankful that you actually went that route, knowing that you might not have been, and you might not know where you'd be if Pima didn't call you, right, whenever you were a junior, or they didn't call you that May, right? So
yeah, my senior year in May, yeah.
That's super late, too. Super late. Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy. So whenever it comes to, like, I guess talking a little bit about the education of kids, how are you helping kids get to the next level? I mean, I've seen you post some stuff on social media about like some kids who have committed, and I don't know if those are directly from your school or if those are like just friends or area schools, whatever, but I have seen you post some stuff about kids going to the next level. So like, how are you helping them get there? Are you sending out emails? Are you taking phone calls? Are you just talking to the kids and telling them the process of what they need to do? I mean, what are you doing as a high school coach to help these kids get seen and get a chance, or at least on the radar?
I do a little bit of both. I'll start with what I have the kids do. I have an outline that I have kids send an email, and basically it walks the kids exactly, walks them through the whole kind of like template of what to say to these coaches. So it'll say like, right here, 2 to 3 sentences about your bio, and underneath, your highlight tape, your grades, your SAT scores, and stuff like that. And so, that's the first thing I have kids do. If kids can't do that for me, for them really, it kind of tells me how important it is for them. Because I do this with all the kids, not just the kids that at colleges are coming in, all kids. Because I feel like there's so many schools that if they really, really wanted to play, there is a home somewhere. Now, it might not be how you wanted it or whatever, but there's an opportunity, right? And so we kind of walk all our kids through that process. So at the end of the day, they all want it. But that's kind of like the outline that I have for the kids. And then after that, we start to have real conversations, okay? So it's like, hey, like one of my kids right now, Ethan Heidel. Ethan Heidel is a defensive and offensive lineman for me. And right now we're talking through the process. He has made his letter. And now he is, we had the conversation. Now, what is your top 10 Division I schools, like no questions asked, far-fetched? What if you get a call, you're going, okay? What are some realistic schools that we know we can play at? And then what are some safety schools that we can just maybe get into, like junior college, or stuff like that. And so after we make that list, we then sit down and we do questionnaires. Okay, I make sure the kids do questionnaires, get on their radar. And the only way to get on their radar, right, is they got people in the building that's only in charge of that. So they're going to go ahead and just send that in, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out as a coach, and I'm going to send them a spreadsheet of what I have on our team and what I think can maybe be at that level. And, I have to be real with kids and say, hey, like, you want to play at University of Washington, but you're 5'8" and you run a 5'7", and, you're a DB, right?
Hey, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to laugh at that, but like I'm sure that's probably like in their minds, like, hey, I could go play UW whenever that's probably their stats, right? I wasn't trying to laugh at it, but I'm sure that's really you have to humble some kids in that situation for sure. With unrealistic potential.
But you can find a home, and what you do it and how you do it is, you just be real with them. Like, hey, you can't play at UW, but hey, I know you got a 3.5 GPA, and you can go play Division III, and you might have to go to playing lineman, or something like that. Just allowing them to know there's opportunity, it just might not be in the wheelhouse that you might expect it to be in. But then like finishing up with Ethan Heidel, then now Now that Heidel has his questionnaires and stuff getting filled out, being completed, the next thing I do is I send my messages, and then I ask them to come visit with me when they're in the area. And so that's one thing that happens. They come and visit our school. We're also a 4A school in Washington, which is, the biggest classification you can get in Washington. And so, our school already attracts because of the statue of it.
Yeah,
so that makes it a little bit easier for sure. And then another thing I do, and I really highly encourage coaches to do is when there's, coaching clinics, when there's coaching visits at like UW, like just last week, I was up at University of Washington and just had a coaches social, a head coach social. I tell coaches, go to that. Right? Because, I've met coaches from a buddy of mine, like, I would say Izzy over at Federal Way. I've met coaches through Izzy, and Izzy's well connected. And so, he might say, oh, I might not have a contact for this person. I go, hey, Izzy, you got a contact for this guy? I think this kid can play there. And he goes, okay, yeah, let me make that connection. So it's also about coaches getting out and getting to meet other coaches. Yeah. I mean, it's like life. It's not so much of how much you know, it's who you know and how far you're willing to go get it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, the last thing that I do is, I set the bar, right? So if I want to go recruit, right? If I want to get kids recruited, right? I must go to the top place that recruits people. Right. And so every year in the last few years, I've been blessed to do a SEC tour with my one of my mentors, Ed Kramer, who's also a long-term coach out of Seattle, Washington, coached at Tahoma last year. I think he's hanging it up, but not too sure yet. Depends on what his wife says. But we go out to University of Georgia. I go see another good mentor of mine, of Greg Vandergriff at Prince Avenue High School. He's won numerous state championships over there in the 2A classification, but they play up, so they play they play anybody that want to play them. They're a really good football program from the soil all the way to the foundation to the top of it. Okay, and so I go out there and I just learn myself. I go out there and I rub shoulders with other individuals, and I don't think that I'm better than him, and I just try to learn from them. And that really helps with the recruiting process too, because like you said, is who you know, and so if you know more people, that's more opportunity, right?
Yep. Which a lot of times, right? It's just like, I love that you do that, because that's a huge piece of it. If a coach feels comfortable at that next level, specifically able to just reach out to you after you've built a relationship, like, hey, we're looking for, we're going to be a little light in XYZ areas on our depth chart this next year. We're looking to recruit these kids, and they reach out to you first versus having to have the whole long process of you go, from school up. I should say from high school to college, and it's more college down to you because they trust you. It makes that process, I feel like, so much easier, not only for the college, but also for that kid too, right? Because like you as a coach, you're like, hey, I just got a call from, I don't know, some school in wherever, right? Idaho or Louisiana, whatever, right? And they say, hey, what do you got? And you send them a list of 2 or 3 kids. That automatically puts your kids, right, to the top of their list to look into, and that might help your kids. So I guess long story short, I love that you think that networking is big, because it's true, right? Like networking is absolutely huge, and that's part of the reason why this podcast was started. Because if you don't know, my goal at my last school, one of my things was trying to get kids to the next level. So I was sending out emails and blah blah blah, getting a whole list of wrestling coaches, in particular, to look into these kids that I was looking what they're looking for as an athlete, blah, 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 sending them emails about these kids, and built some relationships with them. And so some of those coaches were some of the first on this podcast because we built that relationship over the last 2 or 3 years. And so that's just kind of built up now to where like, hey, we have these conversations, we'll text, we talk all the time off air, stuff like that, regardless of the sport. And so now it's kind of cool because if I feel like, hey, I have a kid who, like, even though I don't coach golf or I don't coach lacrosse or I don't coach soccer or whatever, but if I have a contact to that level, if I touch base with local high schools that have those, sports, right? I can say, hey, if you have a kid, let me know. I have that contact. And then so now I'm kind of being helpful to that coach, and then now I'm helping that coach, and vice versa, right? So like for you having all these mentors that have connections, you're just being introduced to the loop. So I love that that networking is crucial to you. Not only for your growth as a coach, but also for the kids too. So that was long-winded, but I love that.
I also want to add too, before we go to the next question, is one thing is, get these kids to clean up their Twitters. Get them to clean up their Twitters, their Instagrams, who they're posting. I always tell my kids, if you don't want grandma to see it, don't post it. Right. And so, they got to make sure it's clean, that it's professional, because, you want to play at the next level. They're investing in you. And as we know, these scholarship amounts are a lot of money. And then plus NIL and all these other things. I mean, it becomes expensive. And so, what makes a college coach want to say, hey, tell his wife when he gets home from work, I have a kid that is going to help me pay my mortgage next year because he's going to come in and produce for us, or he's a later investment. What can get a coach to be able to feel comfortable enough to do that? Because, the coaches, at that level, they're really dependent on what we develop at the high school level to get them through, what they're going through. So, we're the starting point. And so, how can we set those coaches up for success? And how can we create that pipeline? And then also getting your kids to camps. Go to camps. Out here we got the strong Avery camp. We got the UW camp, and a couple other camps all around. Get those kids to go to them camps and get those kids to take their reps, right? Don't try to take as many reps as you can. And so, if we can get kids to start doing that, that really helps with the recruitment process too, because you just got to be seen. And so getting them out there, plus everything we've already talked about, can really, really speed up that process. And then if that social media looks good, it's just another check box for them to feel more comfortable to send that direct message on X or, get in contact with the coach and try to move forward with a process of, how they choose to do the recruiting.
I mean, we had to have that. I don't know if you remember it, but I know that was part of that when we first got to Adams. At least I did, right, when I went there for my first week. We had our wrestling intros, and we had our introduction as within a team. But I know we had an NCAA meeting too, and that was a big piece of it. It might have been even in high school, but that was a big piece of it. Was like, hey, if you post something dumb on your Twitter or whatever, you can get your scholarship revoked, right? Or whatever, like these things that they talked about. And so, yeah, I mean, they take that thing serious. So I 100% agree. Keep it clean and keep it professional, right? Not saying you can't have fun, post pictures, whatever, but don't be on there talking about dumb stuff, right? The things that are illegal in your schools that would get you in trouble still, stuff like that. So, so talking about how you said that you're kind of like the foundation for getting these kids to the next level, right? Or like maybe like the developmental side of things, like the skill set, right? They have to develop that in high school. How are you developing kids within your program to kind of let's just talk about how you were, right? You said you were kind of like a floater C team to JV, right? Kind of at the beginning of your time frame, and then eventually you got your reps. So how do you develop your kids to maybe go from that kid who's on JV as a freshman, sophomore to be like, all right, now you can come be a production or be a major puzzle piece to our varsity, regardless of their, offense or defensive scheme. So how do you develop those kids to be able to do that in that time frame from, freshman to senior year?
Well, first things first, to be honest with them, and just let them know, where they lack, where they're really good, so they understand the playing field that they're in. And then we will go to, encourage them to say, if you want to be well, you got to start applying yourself. So that's the weight room. That's the, on your own. What's done in the dark will always come to the light. So, are you on the field working your footwork? I mean, for God's sake, I leave the pads out on the sled on the turf for the kids. So for me, I tell them there's no excuses. Right, I can always, get a new bag, right? And they always say there's nowhere to work. Well, you go right here to our field and get some work in, And so, that's kind of, what we try to build within the system, and we kind of lead that as coaches. So, coming up next month in March, we start our 6 a.m. workouts. Our 5:30 workouts. and we get our kids there and our kids are working out and they're getting to it. And so, letting that kid see the process of, okay, you're a JV player, but this is how you develop. Okay. And once you develop and once you're putting in the work, it's confidence. Because as you know, like I know, that the weight room and off-season training really, really, really develops you for what you get ready to do when it comes season.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
there's no match. There's no match. You're gonna learn things about yourself that you never knew. You're gonna feel things you never felt before, right? And when you start to get that, you start to expand, right? Like a muscle, you start to expand once you start to get the feel of it, right? So then once they expand, the confidence grows, okay? Because a lot of times when it comes to kids performing, it's confidence, right? Okay, so if I can get him feeling himself now, he feel himself, okay?
Yeah,
we can work.
He's gonna be all right. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And it's just confidence, right? Because, as a coach, I need to find where I can put him, right? Okay, so we'll talk schemes later, but if I don't have the, if I got all little linemen, I'm not gonna run a 4-2, right? I ain't got no gap pluggers, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like understand. It's kind of a halfway point, right? Knowing what you got in the stable, okay, and being able to coach what you got in the stable, but also building that excitement around for kids and having that conversation. So that's kind of how I do that with a JV kid that doesn't have it yet, or even the varsity kid. He ain't got it yet. He's just better than the one behind him. So he's playing right now. But my goal is to get the kid behind him playing and the kid behind that kid to beat him. I tell him every week, there's a new
competition.
Yeah.
Competition.
There's a new starter, baby. Yeah, because if you want to take a break, I'm hiring.
Hey, I love that though, right? Because like you want every single, since we're talking DBs, you want a 6, 7 man, 8 man DB roster or depth chart, and each one of them can be a starter for you, or they'd be a starter anywhere else, right? And creating that competition, getting that confidence up, right? And they feel good. They feel like, hey, no one can beat us. No one can run me over as a linebacker, right? No one can block me as whatever, right? Whatever the case is, you're gonna have a good mentality going into a game. And it could be any sport too, like basketball, right? Like, hey, no one can guard me. No one can score on me. Whatever it is, it's all about confidence, no matter what sport it is. So yeah, I love that for sure. And so you talking about like, I guess kind of talking about these different what do you call it? Positions. Yeah, since we're talking about different positions. When it comes to like your scheme, right? So 4-2, right? 4-2-5 versus 3-4 versus like a 4-4, right? Whatever defensive scheme is, maybe in the same thing on offense, right? Pistol versus ISO, or I should say single back versus traditional gun, whatever the case is. How much role do you play in like the selection of that? And then how do you choose your scheme? Are you choosing it each year and like on a game-by-game case or game-by-game basis based off of like your depth chart, kind of who you have, as you mentioned, like the size thing, right? We can't run certain things here because of these people here, whatever. Or do you kind of keep that same no matter what, and then you just kind of plug and play as you go? So how much voice do you have over what you run offensively and defensively? And then on the other side of it, how do you choose your schemes either week to week or season to season?
Well, as the head coach, I'm also the defensive coordinator.
Okay.
So I call the defense, but I start off with my offensive coordinator, Elijah Rule. I let Elijah Rule be him. I let him. He's a well-salted coach. He has experience. He coached a little bit at the college level, run game coordinator at the junior college level at College of the Redwoods. Been a head coach for 10 years, assistant coach for how many years. So I let him be himself and let him bring what he brings to the table. When you hire guys that are within your wheelhouse, things that you would run, things that you like, things that you feel you can hang your hat on. And so that's what we do. I do as a head coach when I think about offense, and we agree on zone and inside zone, outside zone, our gap schemes, our power counters, right? And so we agree on those things, the formations and how we get there, how we dress it up, kind of just collaborate with each other. We met, I want to say it was I want to say it was last Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago. We met from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Over at one of the local restaurants, and just eating and got caught in the wheelhouse of talking ball. And so
Yeah.
we got lost in that. So that's kind of how we develop on the offense. I let my coaches coach, and I coach my coaches. And so that's kind of how it happens. And then defensively, and offensively, we always do based on what we have, but what we have is universal. And so, we would never outdo what we have. Like one year, right, we might have a team that can run the crap out of GY counter, right? We can run it GY counter, we can run the crap out of it. But then, we might have a year where we can't run GY counter, right? So maybe we're running power and we're motioning in, and then we're going to insert the receiver into the blocking scheme to kind of get that counter look, right, with that power action, and get the same look, right? So, 1,000 ways to get there, right? And we just try to look for ways that we do that with our kids, with our terminology, our lingo. Defensively, you don't always get the biggest hogs in the building. We got a couple good-looking horses in the stable, but what we do with that is, we really just, we move around, we cause havoc. We run a 3-3 stack, we're too high, we run a cover 6. Behind it, split field coverage as a base coverage.
Stack, yeah.
So, we teach our kids things that they do at the next level, because I feel if, all your kids want to play at the next level, if there's some kids that want to play at the next level, my goal as a coach is how can I make sure that my kid is in the conversation his freshman year if he's athletically gifted to do so. So, yeah.
I like that 3-3 stack, by the way. Yeah, I love the 4-2-5 for whatever reason. I'm a big 4-2-5 guy when it comes to schematics, but I like the 3-3 too, and I really like the way that it kind of opens up not only opportunity for assault. I mean, I guess it depends on who you have, right? You can run a 3-3 as an Alabama defense or as a 0-12 freaking JUCO team. It don't matter, but if you run it well, I like how it. How there's so many different looks you can kind of put in that back, right? Because you said with the too high up top. Is that what you said, right? You run a 3-3 stack with too high? Yeah. So a lot of different looks you can give the quarterback from those two safeties, and then a lot of that motion or I guess line fill, if you would, like the fake blitzes, whatever the case, from the pressure from the second level. I just like the 3-3, so I can appreciate you running that there for sure. I don't know. I'm just talking as a fan of football. I'm obviously not a DC, but I'm a defensive guy, so I like that for sure.
What it does though, it gets us in it allows us to do we can get in any front really, based on what you want to do. So we can end up looking like a 4-2, right? We can turn into a 52. It depends on what you do, and that's kind of like what I mean with my, with coaching high school ball.
Fluid.
When you build off what you have, but the stack is kind of our base, and then we branch off from there, right?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you can be fluid with it, right, based off of looks and stuff like that. You have to be, anyways. But I like that for sure. So let me get into some of the philosophy questions now, because I think the schemes I think are really cool, and for me personally. If we were to get you back on here for another episode, whenever that time might be, right? If you liked it and we want to jump back on, we talk a little bit more like behind the scenes. So like, what's your off-season practice look like? What are you doing in the weight room to help build? What are you running, right? You don't have to give away too much sauce, because I know some people don't want to give away all the bits and pieces, but more like the behind the scenes, truly locker room type stuff, right? So if that were to come, that's fine. But I do like the schematic that you're choosing, and I appreciate you diving into those things for me. But when it comes to like the philosophy side of things, is so how do you build? And I know it's your first year there, so I know you may or may not take some stuff from. Actually, yeah, let me just ask this really quick. What is something that you've taken from any of your coaches, either that are mentors, or maybe that Coach Norris, or maybe Coach T, or anywhere that you've been, right? Or maybe as an athlete, what is something that you've taken maybe on the schematic side of things, and then also on the like mental, social, like, not like the off the field stuff? Name one of each that you feel like has been the most important thing that you've been able to take from as a coach or as an athlete, and now implement it as a head coach now.
I would definitely say, good question. I would definitely say, schematically, I would say some stuff from Rex Norris, from what he did in the 3-3 stack, and then what I've learned from Greg Vandegrift, and being able to combine both of those philosophies and kind of build my own within the stack and what we do. So that's kind of like schematic, and then what I've got from just what I bring to the table with my coaching style is everything that my last 9 years going into my 10th year. You learn so many things, so many times you've been in a situation where you must grow and learn from. So I would say all of them, really all of them. But one thing I took from a coach named Kevin Hurt, he was my head coach at Kent Lake High School, was the Sentinels. And those Sentinels groups was, the Sentinels group is basically your student voice, your athlete voice. And so you find a way to create those leaders, and then those leaders are, the ones that come to you to say, hey, coach, we're having an issue in house about this, about that, because at the end of the day, as a coach, you kind of got to, feed the consumer, right? And so if they're not liking something or they need more explanation on something, there's a free land to do so, right?
I like that.
So that's one thing I took from Kevin Hurt. Yeah, so that's two things right there.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that you have like a student leader, if you would. That's kind of like the captain can come and talk to him in-house stuff. I like that. I've never heard that. That's a sick. I like that a lot for sure. I like that. I'm about to steal that one for sure. So how do you build a successful program? Or let me start here. And this is why I started the last time before I asked that last question was I know it's your first year, so you're going to have to kind of maybe change some stuff up, right? It's the first time you're at the helm, so you might have a whole different world idea, but kind of whether you want to accumulate everything you've done over the last 9 years, 10 years, or maybe just what your new idea will be. But how do you build a successful culture and then like on the level of buy-in and mindset?
So the way that we're going to build a successful future at Kentwood High School is going to be our Sentinel group. So it's crazy that we actually spoke about our Sentinels. So if you ever look at right now it has the K, but we also have a crust, right? And it's a shield, it has the K in it, it has this K display in it. And then around the K of the shield has 12 bolts on it, right? And so our Sentinel group is going to be 12 leaders, right? And everybody on the team has to be in one of those groups, right? So that's your Sentinel Brotherhood group for the year. So going from summer ball all the way to the end of the season, that is your group that you're spending the majority of your time with when we think about, a starting point. But then when we go to do our activities and stuff, that's that unit, right? And so then what we also do is we start to put points up on the board, right? So if somebody's really showing out for one of the groups, let's say he's showing up on time and he stayed after to maybe pick up some trash on the side of the field, that's going to get highlighted in a team meeting, and that team, because he's part of that team, is going to get a point. Right, and so then now they're racing for points because there's a prize at the end, right? And the way you get kids is food, right? And that's how you get me too, baby. Some food.
Hey, to the stomach, baby. Yeah, to the heart.
Yeah, put some dinner on it or something like that. We try to find little cool ways to motivate them, and do that. And so then now they're competing against each other, which now they're starting to care, right? Because they want to win. Right. And then, from there with that Sentinel group, they then start their journey with getting to know the coaches and stuff like that. So then now when we come out of summer, we've done all these type of activities, step over the line games, whole bunch of games for them to get to know each other and get to know the coaches, these activities that are empowering one another. And then after that, right, when we go to our season, we go to a 10-week regular season, okay? We spell the word out character, and we use each letter as a week till we get to the word character, right? And so if we can have character, we're going to be successful, right? And so maybe that C stands for community, right? How are we going to be positive? How are we going to positively affect our community? right? And so that week, we're going to talk about getting buy-in from our community. How are we going to fill up the stands? How are we going to get that support? How are we going to build, right? And so those are the things that we talk about. And so that's something that we do. And then also the way we build that culture, right, is our coaches also be a part of that. Yes, I'm the head coach and I lead, but I feel a leader is as good as the ones that are beside him. Mm-hmm. And so because they are men of character, right, they're going to get up and they're going to have a week where they might have 2 weeks. Who knows, right? Whoever has the hot hand. And I go with the coach with the hot hand. And now all the time as the head coach, you got the hot hand.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, we go through that and we build them up. We do little assignments and stuff like that. Like, I got one right here next to me because I was working on it earlier before we got on this call. But it's like our week prep and it's blurry. Hold on. Okay, like
there we go.
Our week prep kind of, was right. And so, read some of it, goals I'm going to accomplish this week, goals I accomplished this week, hard things I'm going to do, hard things I did. Adversity I expect, adversity I overcome, little things like that. We're going to do that throughout the week to really get them, talking about these things. And then after they, have that, they're talking to their teammates about it too. Right. And so we're building conversations, we're building leaders. And if you have character through the whole season, that means they're caring about where they're at. Right. How can we lose once the kids care? You can't lose. It's high school football. Let's be real,
bro.
Right?
Hey, bro, I like that shit. Hey, and just so you know, bro, I'll tell you this. I know for a fact you're definitely a team hype man too. Like not like you said, everybody's got their hand right. Like there's some guys who are like some coaches are real chill, some coaches are real high intensity. I feel like you can be both, but I feel like you definitely got the words to hype some people up. I remember in the locker room, bro, before some of them games, I know you was getting loud for the defense, bro. So I'm just saying, like, I know for a fact you got some of that hype within you. I could just tell right now, bro, it's a passion. And so I guess why I'm bringing that up is because if you have that passion as a coach, right, and you can relay that down to the kids in all the things and have a passion for their character, like a passion for who they're going to be, right, you care, so why wouldn't that pass along to them for them to care? You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of why I bring that up. But I like that you have that little weekly prep because that keeps everybody in check because then you can even have at these meetings, right? Whether it's I don't know if you have, individual meetings or if you do like just defense, offense, right? Every high school is probably different in time that you're allowed in Washington, blah, blah, blah. But it kind of keeps them, as you said, like accountable, right? Like if everybody in this little 12-person or this little, these teams that you're doing, or as we said, offense, defense, whatever, and only one or two people didn't do it, but everybody else did, man, they're going to feel like trash because everybody else did it, right? So it's also a way to keep them accountable on paper versus just a verbal thing, right? So I like that you'd have that kind of setup for your kids.
Thank you. And I always tell them, like, comment on when, bringing, the energy, you got to bring the juice. That's what I tell my kids all the time. You got to bring the juice. Fake it till you make it. I don't know if you remember Marty Heaton. You remember Coach Heaton? Coach Heaton, remember his philosophy was, you'll do pursuit drill as long as, I feel you need to do pursuit drill if I feel you're not excited to be able to get out and do what we're doing on defense, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of just try to, go with that, fake it until you make it. Bring the juice. Right. And, it's about motivating kids when they're not motivated. Right. Because sometimes they motivate you when you're not motivated. Right. And so it's a two-way street. And so just kind of find the line as a coach and understand when you can bring the energy and, bring it max, bring it all the way to 10, sometimes 12, 15. Right. And there's times where you got to bring it down to a -5. Right. And just understanding when and where. And, so, kind of because you mentioned the juice, I actually want to, hit on that just a little bit because, I see a lot of coaches that are very intense or they get intense and they, they get to yelling at a kid because the kid can't do it right now. I get it. Like I get it. Going to my 10th year, I get it. The kids make you frustrated, right? And shoot, you frustrate them too, because how we deliver it. So I always encourage coaches, if you're going to talk to them, or you're going to correct something, let's talk like this. And then, when if you want to still bring that fire, you're still trying to learn when to build that fire. Go with the philosophy like what I started off with was I'm only going to bring the juice when they do it right. Right. So now when they do it right, that's their positive, reinforcement. I'm running out there, I'm jumping up with them. We doing our little dance, like this year they had the little get sturdy, a little whatever, we shake your belly. Go out there and hit it with them one time. You know what I'm saying? Like bring the juice until you can learn how to come up with a balance. And then once you have that balance as a coach, you can really live on that pillar.
Absolutely, yeah. It's important, right? I get told by one of my mentors all the time, timing is everything, right? When you say something, how you say something, right? You can get pissed off and yell at a kid, but it have to be timed correctly, right? You also, like you said, that pillar, you have to know when to say it and how to say it, but timing, however you're going to say it's important. So I love that for sure. So I got one more question for you. Actually, I have two more, but I got two more questions for you. One of them is the name of the show. My favorite question, right? The reason why we do all this is, why do you coach? What's your coach's why?
Man, my coach's why is I want to see young athletes live their dream. I got to live mine. Did I go as far as I wanted to go? No. But what it did do is give me an opportunity to be successful in life. And I'm 30 years old and I live a happy life. I'm okay. And I feel that's what's important to build for these kids because right now there's so much distractions and, so many other auras of life that they want our kids to live. And I feel the why is to keep those kids grounded with athletics, something their parents started doing and showing them at a very young age, something they did just because little Johnny did it across the street. And so that's kind of my why, just being able to, build success through athletics. Again, success is the meeting point. Not success, the meeting point. The sport is the meeting point. The success happens once you get them and you get hands-on and deliberate with those kids.
I love it. Oh, yeah. I like that a lot, man. So, it's definitely a transportation, or it's the, what do I like to say? Yeah, I guess the transportation to the overall goal, but I like how you said at the beginning, you didn't reach all your dreams per se, but you're happy in life, and this is just kind of a secondary step to your dream, right? Now you're coaching, which is even if playing was a dream at the high level, now your next dream is like, all right, well, now I'm in another process of getting to the next, trying to be at a high level coach, right? So it's kind of just like maybe a part two to that dream, if you would. So I like that a lot, man. I love it. So if you guys are still watching this on YouTube, make sure you guys HTB hit that bell, like and subscribe all the 9 yards. If you guys are an audio listener, right? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, PocketCasts, any of those, make sure you guys hit those stars, leave a review, say what you got to say, but say it with your chest because we want to hear what you got to say. We want to hear it. This is my... I'm not gonna lie to you. I might edit this question out because I just was sitting here thinking about you talking to all these coaches, and I'm like, bro, there was the time, and I probably will edit this part out, and then I'll do a closeout. But Coach Johnson, right? Remember Coach Johnson?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it.
Yeah, we could talk about it. Yeah, we could talk about it for sure. So my question for you is like, how did that relationship develop you? Right, because I know that there was a lot of beating and banging, right? And I know it wasn't just with you; it was with other guys too on that line. And so this is just maybe more for me. I might not even keep it in this podcast, to be honest with you. But I just know that there's a lot of issues there, and I didn't really talk to a lot of people about it, right? So I guess my question for you is, Coach Johnson, how did that relationship go for you, and then how did that maybe play an impact on your final year or two there and then now that you got out of that into coaching?
Well, when I met Coach Johnson, I was a preseason All-American. I was coming in, coming off my senior year, going into my senior year as a dog, and they knew who I was. And he would do like corny stuff, like not start me, and all those things like that. But at the end of the day, I thank him. At 30 years old, I thank him, right? And I thank him because of this. He showed me some things that I would never want another kid to experience. And, all these coaches that came from the next level, right? They came from the next level. They were D1 coaches, played D1 or whatever,
UNLV,
right?
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and so I said, you know what? If this is the type of coaching that happens at that level, I don't want to play football no more, and I don't think any other kids want to play football anymore. How can I help change that? And then that's when the opportunity came around with Coach T. So why go chase a dollar and a dream when I can go build a foundation? And because he showed me things what not to do, because of the meetings and the rooms we were in, I've been able to be successful. Because number one thing, we go back to what we talked about was, putting the kids first, getting to know your kids and stuff like that, right? He never got to know none of us, and that's okay. He was a young coach too, and errors come. Errors come, and so I'm not going to say he was at fault, I was at fault, or anybody else in that room was at fault. I think as a grand scheme of things, we were all at fault, and it's easy to do this, right? But a lot of people forget when you point, okay, there's 3 of them pointing back at you. Okay, there's 3, right? And so you kind of got to self-evaluate and kind of see what you did wrong to kind of provoke those situations, right? And so, I wasn't always the best, right? I knew I wasn't always, Prince Charming, right? And so, I thank him for the opportunity because I was able to learn, I was able to grow. Even if I didn't agree, I was able to learn and grow from it and be able to apply it to what we do now. So, for me, it's part of the journey, baby, and I'm a gamer, so let's game, right? And so, that's just kind of, what it is. It was a rough. How should I say? It was rough going through it. But now that we're out of it, and yes, there's guys that miss opportunities because of this, but you got at the end of the day, you can't say that it was Coach Johnson. It was just a roadblock that God put in front of you. Coach Johnson was just the one who was there. Right. And so it's more of your conversation with God. God, why did you put me through that? Not Coach Johnson put me through that. God, why did I go through that? And what was he looking to tell me at a later date? Right. And so, with that being said, God has been talking and I've been walking. So, I can't blame the man for it. He didn't know what he didn't know, and I didn't know what I didn't know.
There you go. Yeah, I'm sure he was there, and I'm sure all those coaches, right, and any coach you've been around had the intention to be there for you, right? Just how things are said or how things are programmed or whatever the case plays a factor into your growth or to where your goals might have been prior to, or maybe your path that you were already set on stone on, right? Relative, there was, like you said, a roadblock or something that deters you from it that we have to now understand and try to figure it out. But I like that you said when you do this, 3 are pointing back at you. So I think it's important that we can look at the situation and be able to self-evaluate, as you said, to understand how we get through it and overcome it. So I love it. I've always just wanted to talk to you about that, just on a personal level, regardless of if we keep this on or not, because I think that's an important piece of your story for sure.
Keep it on, because there's other people that's experienced it, And it's just about, understanding how to get through it, right? And just remember, God didn't come this far. God didn't allow you to come this far to only come this far. Find why it's happening and fix it. And for the coaches, you're getting wind that, your kids, are not liking some of your approaches. Find ways to fix it. Don't change who you are, because you're going to be who you are. Walk your truth, but kind of find more ways to blend it, camouflage with the current, right? I got a coach on my staff that hates the music at practice. Well, if I play music at practice, these kids gonna have a good practice. So we're gonna play, we're gonna find a happy medium. And coach, I'm gonna throw on that, one of them, Nothing to remember. I'm gonna throw in one of your jams, coach.
Coach, we're gonna play something that gets you hyped up too.
Yeah. So just finding that happy ground and just staying grounded and finding out the why and then fixing it.
Absolutely, man. But, Coach, I really appreciate you jumping on here, man. It's been a really good episode. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of really good gems in there. So if you're a high school coach or if you're an athlete, I hope you guys listened to it till this point because Coach really had a lot of really good stuff in there. And if you guys feel like there's any other questions that you'd like me to ask the next coach or maybe Coach Davison the next time he gets on here, please let me know. Let him know. Gladly take a look at that for you guys and implement it. So, but Coach, again, thank you so much for getting on here, man. It's been a long time since we've talked, but I couldn't be more thankful for it on a Sunday. So appreciate you jumping on, man.
I appreciate you having me, brother. And man, I love everything that you're doing for the coaches, for the players, building that bridge from coast to coast, to community to community, man. It's really special what you're doing. And I like, comment, and subscribe myself.
Hey, absolutely, man. Hey, I appreciate it. Yeah, make sure you do, brother. I'll be posting every Sunday. We drop a new episode. Sometimes we drop a bonus one in there every once in a while, So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to jump on here. And thank you guys again for listening. But with that being said, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.